Oh, Jared Goff's he's a Ram right now. So what's the date? Let's see, January 26th. I mean, that's a fact. That's obvious. He's right. I mean, he's number 2 in wins. Him and Sean have partnered together.
Well, you hear that, and maybe we should have saw a trade coming for Jared Goff, right? I said on the show the other day, how are they going to move that contract? I mean, I don't care what Sean McVay or Les Snead, who you just heard say about Goff. Well, they were able to move it all right. The Matt Stafford trade goes down over the weekend. Jared Goff, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick go back to the Lions. And Matt Stafford goes from Detroit to L.A. Get ready for all the people pointing out the fact that him and Clayton Kershaw went to high school together, played Little League together, and are childhood best friends. All right, we'll get that out of the way because, 1,000 people are going to mention that between now and, when the season starts next year. That all being said, you look at this deal from a number of different perspectives. I think the biggest takeaway is the Rams continue just to go all in to try and win. And I give credit to the Rams for saying, we made a mistake giving Goff this contract. We need to do something about it. We need to fix it. We have a win-now team. We have a team that has premium position stars. We need to be all in and upgrade at quarterback because we are not going to win with Jared Goff. When you're not paying Jared Goff any money, yeah, you can win with him because you could surround the rest of the roster with great players. But when you then have to give Jared Goff the big money extension and you no longer are getting him for peanuts, well, then you need him to elevate the rest of the team, and he has shown the inability to do just that. So I give the Rams credit for admitting their mistake and making a deal that gives them a better chance to win in 2021. You have a very small window of opportunity in the NFL. And you look at this Rams roster, when you're paying Jalen Ramsey, when you have Aaron Donald, you got to go for it. So I give credit to LA for being all in, admitting they made a mistake with Goff's contract, and going out there and being aggressive to try and fix their quarterback situation. I mean, Jared Goff's an average quarterback. He was being paid like a guy that was in the top 10. So you look at the value for Stafford. Yeah, they gave up 2 first-round picks, but one of those first-round picks was basically to unload the Goff contract on Detroit. All you need to know about Jared Goff is the fact that the Rams were the team that wanted to move on from him. If Sean McVay doesn't think you're any good, what does that tell you? Right? I was talking to one of my good friends over the weekend. Is Stafford that much better than Goff, he said? And I think if you just look at the stats, you could argue Goff has not been, a bad quarterback. But all you need to know is if Sean McVay wants to give up on you, then yeah, I think it's fair to say that Stafford is a significant upgrade over Jared Goff. Jared Goff was average with McVay. I wonder what he will now be without him. Does he revert back to the guy we saw with Jeff Fisher? Probably not. Goff was a rookie then. But I have no confidence Jared Goff's any good. He never developed into the guy they thought they had after they went to the Super Bowl, and they scored only 3 points in that game. Now, you look at the Rams and the fact they don't have any first-round picks. Yeah, it's tough to win that way in the NFL, but you know what? When you keep turning your first-round picks into, Brandon Cooks or Jalen Ramsey, now Matt Stafford, you can win without those picks if your general manager, Les Snead, continues to hit on guys in the mid-rounds or the late rounds. If you draft Josh Johnson or Cooper Kupp or Cam Akers or Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp, Van Jefferson, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Higbee, I can keep going. I mean, you look at the Rams roster, most of the key players were mid-round selections or late-round picks. That continues to put pressure on the Rams to hit on those picks. There's less wiggle room. But if you're confident in your scouts and you're confident in your process for the draft, you understand why the Rams felt like they needed to do this. Yeah, they were not going to be able to get Deshaun Watson. So Matt Stafford's the other option at quarterback that was out there that would be a big upgrade over Goff. I give the Rams credit. I feel like a lot of teams would not do it. So many teams are stubborn in their ways to not admit their mistake, not admit, hey, we screwed this up, because they don't want to look bad. The Rams are basically telling you, yeah, we screwed up giving Goff that contract, but we're going to do something about it. Yeah, they're not just set in their ways. The Vikings doubled down on Kirk Cousins. Now, where are they? They're kind of stuck. The Bears, they stuck with Trubisky for another year. How's that working out? And when you're wrong about a quarterback, the best thing to do is just admit your mistake. We saw the Cardinals do that with Josh Rosen, and it led them to Kyler Murray. If you don't have confidence in your guy, move off your guy. Don't just stick with a guy because it's the right thing to do to give someone more time. It hasn't worked. It's not all Jared Goff's fault, but if Sean McVay doesn't think he can win with him, that tells me all I need to know. From the Lion perspective, I understand why they made this move. I do. They're not a team that's ready to win. They're doing a full rebuild there. But if you look at the offers the Lions apparently had to choose from, Albert Breer in his Monday morning QB column last night, he wrote that the Carolina Panthers offered the number 8 pick in the draft and a late round choice to the Lions for Stafford. When I heard that, I said, wow, they didn't take that deal? See, if I'm the Lions, I don't have an issue with the return. You got 2 first-round picks, but those picks are likely going to be in the 20s, and you don't have a pick in this year's draft, so you're delaying the rebuild. I would have liked the top 10 pick this year, so you have pick 7 and then pick 8. Maybe you could use those picks to trade up for a quarterback if you like, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. Or maybe, you have one of those guys fall to you at number 7, and then you can take Kyle Pitts at number 8 or Jalen Waddle, or you could take a great player on defense. I would have liked the 2 top 10 picks this year than settling for a first next year and a first the year after. I would have liked to see an immediate payoff for trading Matt Stafford away. But I get why the Lions decided not to make that deal, right? They also got a 3rd-round pick. So the Lions did very well with the return. But I would argue that if you can get the number 8 pick in the draft this year and have back-to-back top 10 picks, I'd rather that if I'm the Panthers. Or excuse me, if I'm the Lions. And selfishly, as a fan of a team that hopefully can acquire Deshaun Watson, eliminating the Panthers from the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes would go a long way as well. Yeah, I never really thought the Rams would be in the mix for that guy. Some of the other offers that were out there, Washington reportedly offered the number 19 pick and a 3rd rounder. That's not going to beat the Panther offer. That certainly doesn't beat the Ram offer. And Albert Breer also reported this. The Colts never offered the number 21 pick, but they discussed other packages. This really surprises me. If Indy's not going to offer the 21st overall pick, how do they expect to upgrade at quarterback? We heard Jim Irsay last week come out and say they're looking for a veteran. Well, Matt Stafford would be the best veteran option you could find. You're not getting Deshaun Watson. And the Texans are certainly not trading Deshaun Watson to a team in their own division. So that surprised me that the Lions didn't take the Panthers offer and that the Colts never even offered their 1st-round pick. I want to know what both those teams are planning to do at quarterback now. What's the Colts' plan at QB? Jacoby Brissett? Jameis Winston? Could they draft someone even though their owner said they want a veteran? The ramifications of the Stafford trade have impacted so many teams around the league. And then there's the tidbit that Stafford didn't even want to go to New England. And that was the only team he told Detroit not to trade him to. Is that more of a Matt Patricia thing? Or is it more of a, I don't want to play for Belichick because I just dealt with Patricia and everyone says Patricia tried to copy Belichick? Regardless, that eliminates an option for New England. So this assumption that New England's just going to figure it out at quarterback, I don't know. Apparently the 49ers are content with Jimmy Garoppolo. So if that's the case and the Niners don't have a new quarterback, they stick with Jimmy for another year. What does New England do at quarterback? They can't stick with Cam. No chance. So there's a lot of questions that this Stafford trade has on teams that were not even involved. But thinking back to what the Lions got for Stafford, you can't knock the 2 first-round picks. I just would have loved to have the number 8 pick in this year's draft and have the assets of number 7 and number 8 to go up and get a quarterback if you like a guy. See, I like the deal from the Lions' standpoint as long as they don't think Goff's their guy. That they're not going to be sold that Goff's their long-term answer. But the impact of this deal affects so many teams. And it's crazy that the NFL is essentially becoming the NBA as far as player movement. I mean, you basically had a deal here where the Lions were compensated with an extra 1st-round pick to absorb a really bad contract. You see that in basketball all the time, where teams with cap space use that as a weapon to acquire assets. The Brooklyn Nets were able to build their roster without any picks because they took on bad contracts in exchange for some draft picks that they could turn into players or young players that could develop. Like the Brooklyn Nets took on D'Angelo Russell and Timothy Mozgov. Mozgov's awful contract, but they had D'Angelo Russell. They developed him, then flipped him for assets, and eventually they were able to clear cap space to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So we've seen this in the NBA before. Now we're starting to see it with football. So this was the first quarterback domino to fall, and the first domino to fall being Stafford going to a team that not many thought had a legit chance of getting him, which kind of throws a wrench into the plans of Carolina, Washington, and certainly Indianapolis. 800-224-2004. Who won the Matt Stafford trade? Richard Miller writes in, Rams won the trade. Short and sweet. I think you got to give credit to the Rams for being all in, but here's what I'll say for their sake going forward. The only way you could justify giving up this much for Stafford is if they now win a Super Bowl. Right? They went to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. You're banking on Stafford being the difference maker and contending and getting back there going forward. We'll take more thoughts on who won this trade, either the Rams, the Lions, or a team that maybe didn't do anything. Could I argue the Texans won the trade? Stafford went for 2 first-round picks. What's Deshaun Watson worth? I'll tell you why that question is complicated and not necessarily correlated. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned. Jake Asman with you here on a Monday morning as we kick off Super Bowl week on the program. You're listening to Sports Map Radio.